Hi, I'm Daniel, and a film called Spies in the Skies, released back in 2019, yet that year. In the final week of 2010s, this movie ends that decade on a high note. After Blue Sky Studios shut down in 2021, and this became the last movie. Kind of. Nimona was cancelled, but Netflix is finishing the film, so it's not for Blue Sky anymore. So I still removed the word Yas from the title. Anyway, this movie is great for using a typical overused formula exceptionally, which is why we're discussing this somewhat long video. I've been excited with this because recently my view nicer videos I felt like I'm trying to prove something, maybe my urination ones. This will be a more fun discussing why the film works. It also stands out being a recent film only 2.5 years old. This video will contain spoilers, so watch the film first, it's worth it. So let's get into what's disguised about this movie. Part 1. Making the characters work. Normally discuss story first and characters either next or last. But if there's movies that make me change around the order, it would be Spies in the Skies. There is a generic duo used in modern animated films, with one more likable and optimistic and the other more cruel and cynical. I'm hoping you know what I mean and it's very overdone, but what if one movie does that but a lot more interesting by flipping it? Sterling is the more main character of the two and he's great. There's a story of him beginning to become more nice and humble, but the movie knows the middle ground. Then when that's done, the character is either too likable or some will root for the actual villain over him. Or the film is too scared to have one of the main characters being likable, and the payoff doesn't feel earned. Lance is very cocky and sometimes mean to others, but he is a character you can root for with him being framed. You can also understand his change to being a better person as he learns. His motivation in the end are about trying to protect people, he just needs to find a better way to do it. This arc is done very frequently, but this is a great example of it. Walter Beck is the second main character, but has equal to do in the story as both a functional protagonist. He is a very likable character, especially with the flashback introducing him at the start. He has a strong ideology to push, and despite what it seems like, he is more aware and not the oblivious one. He also actually has tie-ins with his inventions that help. The whole yet good be weird message is on the nose, but that's expected with how no one knows how to phrase it. So on that note, Walter is great artistic representation and that's quite clear throughout the movie. He also remains loyal to Yance even without gains for him in the situation. Both characters are great and the different paces moves along the mystery and characters. There's also other characters with the villain, whose name is just Villain but replaced the V with a K. With Kian, I see the point thematically and he shows the point with Yance's ideology. He's more built up than actually there. He's better just staying silent from the start because he lacks memorability a villain should have. His plot is docking the identity of all the spies, then just having robots attack. It isn't that complicated or in any way interesting. Should have had the villain's plot be as good as his motivations. Cassie's always surprising because when I first watched this, I predicted she'll be evil and working with the villain guy. That would be the easy, predictable way. The movie doesn't do that. She actually thought that, which makes sense as it looks like Jans was guilty. She is also followed by two comic relief characters who are just there. Not really a positive or negative. There's also some pigeon characters who I'm glad only Jans can understand and the audience can't. The other is Walter's pet, who like the pigeon Jans turned into, who is later revealed to be female. An example of Blue Sky trying to sneak gay representation in past Disney. There's two other pigeons and together they are a flock and they are fine. There's some good moments and they serve their purpose well, but they could do with less screen time for them. Also, Joyous is the leader of the spy agency who is good at being reasonable. She is trying to help Jans by having him cooperate with Marseille, but he escapes. This film is obviously mainly focusing on the two stars, as it is a buddy movie. The others manage their purpose but don't expect a large cast. Even so, this is a great buddy movie with the voice actors actually doing a good job. It's quite obvious Tom Holland's the better one out of the two. I'm not a huge fan, but I like how his characters he plays actually sound different unlike other celebrity voice actors. This movie being character driven is why I talked about it before the story, which is also great. Part 2, playing off a spy story. Okay, so remember Cars 2? That is an animated spy movie and it's very bad. That used to be the biggest, but the reputation was changed by just one film. The opening scenes are great. The first introduces Walter as we see younger him, and then there's a spy scene. Hans battling is really cool, and the bit of Kitty Gitter shows a connection between both characters. It shows that both are the same movie. Then there's a title montage of Silhouette, and I like these. Story gets to the point quickly and isn't dragged out like often. You get a scene of Jans confronting and firing Walter, then he gets framed for stealing the device, causing them to team up. With Jans being turned to a pigeon, this worry people in the trailers as it looks like a potentially cool spy movie being dumbed down. But actually no, the pigeon angle works as Walter describes. Pigeons are just there with nobody noticing that fits a spy disguise. That's almost the title. The comedy of being a pigeon isn't the best as some is uncomfortable, but it still takes itself seriously a moment. The only real problem is how it ties to the Prince and the Frog, Emperor's New Groove, Brother Bear, Soul, and Turning Red, having non-white characters turn into an animal of greater being I can soul. This is a problem for how often it happens in proportion to how much representation there is. If there was only one or two instances, then it would barely matter. All these movies except maybe Brother Bear are great, and you can say that while acknowledging this problem. So, I like the title to a meaning of disguise, sounding like disguise as pigeons fly. My pronunciation, they both sound the same anyway. Car chase scene is cool, then they interrogate Gwen in the hotel, then advance this progress as we meet the villain. Story moves in all these moments even with the slapstick. The confrontation is dramatic and the climax is great with how they use both inventions. Manage to make a villain have a lot of power with high stakes, but the hero's winning is realistic. Hans also turns back into a pigeon and makes me ask how. For it was a long and painful process. It should have been a dialogue saying the transformation way better after the first time. I think has them both taken by the agency to imply more adventures happen after this. This works to end the film satisfying, but I need more in a sequel or show. Characters are fit for a lot more stories, which was set up. Spies in Disguise is a great use of the spy genre, with the action scenes being intense and well choreographed. Pigeon thing looked dumb, but it worked and benefited this movie. There's also a great theme here too. Part 3 Pacifism. Otto is a pacifist, which means believing peace is always an option and functional. His mother died in force, making him want to use inventions to make the world safer and a better place. They do still work in a tending purpose, like the inflatable hug and seeing it makes people happy. In contrast, Jans believes you should save civilization by any means, and probably has a license to kill. When Jans confronts Walter, telling him when he needs a grade, he'll give him a grade, but Walter still says there's a better way. He remains strong on that stance, and that's what gets him initially fired. His theme is present throughout the whole movie, like when they're arguing in the car whether to use weapons or oil slick. In the hotel, Walter gets what looks like a weapon, but was really just a truth serum, which is actually better at their plan. On the boat, they discuss this further, and I can't see a problem how it's phrased as they're just people. However, the problem is the use of binaries such as good and bad, because some would see Jans as bad because of all you did. Characters have a similar goal want to save people, but disagree on how, and not only Yas until we get to KN. He was the only one of a gang who survived from Jans while injured. Jans thinks he was in the right instead of trying to cause harm. The problem is it causes revenge. I go over this in my Big Hero 6 video too because they have similar themes. Ian tries to blow up Walter's submarine while Jans is begging him to stop with nothing for him to do. This is where he realizes the problem, because before he saw Walter was too innocent, even as he gained respect, he still couldn't see why, and that's why he went solo and yet in the submarine. After this, they start using pacifist memes in the climax. Walter is hacking the villain's arm, and was in a point where he could kill both of them. Then, the inflatable hug motif comes back. That's what saved him before, and shows how far he was going in his beliefs about not killing the villain, even knowing he could die. This message was ahead of its time because without naming specifics, the following year put more attention on government brutality against criminals. The movie is a good example of better memes that can be good. The theme is great, but isn't the thing that makes the whole movie. My underrated masterpiece videos. There's still a lot more that works about it. Part 4 Comedy, animation, music, etc. This movie can be funny when you get past the ignore some of the poorly executed ones. Character dynamics causes a bit of yard yarn. Like how Walter simplifies the definition to get and makes people happy. There's also a scene where Jans imagines himself kicking Walter out of the plane. Then we go back to the reality of Walter influencing about pigeons to him. More moments like that. Describing comedy as hard without it sounding like a yes. Pop culture references are also done quite well. Pointing out it sounds like Scooby-Doo isn't that funny, but if you think about it, while Scooby-Doo does exist, that is what they would be saying realistically. In the climax, that top reference is epic. It isn't distracting and works on its own. If you do get the reference, it's a hype moment. I want to play the clip at the end, but I already did that on my Blue Sky ranking video. think I previously overlooked animation for the designs. Author has the main male protagonist's face, and Namely's character in the background look poor. Aside from that, the background and texture look really good. It is realistic and stylized at the same time. Cinematography fits the action, with the scenes being very smooth. CGI is changing to be more vibrant over realistic styles, but stuff like this still looks great. Now as for music, there's original songs with titles that fit the story. Freak of Nature has good sound and is very catchy again, all is excited for the movie. And There Is Two isn't as good, but still a solid song, and I recommend listening to both. There's also Fly Bob before it existed. There's also all the existing songs like the Why Do Birds song that become associated with just The Simpsons. Aside from having birds in it, the song doesn't fit the scene. If I had to say a complaint, music incorporation is very easy. When there's action hijinks like in the hotel, a random song page just tell music and it isn't needed. Anyway, Spies in the Skies did a great job being a year 2010 animated film. It is spectacular, but it is not unique that it peaks at 8.5 out of 10. That's still very high for what it is. Title this part etc., but there's not more to discuss yet, so go into the conclusion. Part 5 Conclusion. This film was made by Blue Sky, and I have a feeling this helped the system is shutting down. Over a year later, this film is franchise worthy and Disney was promoting it well, but this film got weak box office, which is unfortunate. After the franchise them to continue on their own, the studio was shut down, especially with the pandemic added onto it. Disney owns this property, so they could make more, but they heard the Ice Age book Wow movie was bad, so I don't know. Spies in Disguise will remain underrated before I send this video. I thought this would be short, but it ended up long as had a lot to say about it. I think this would be the last video nicest of a single film for a while, because there's more time over other videos. Just know there's more content I'm working on in the time being, so you can subscribe. The end.